Oh, honey. The 1980s weren't just shoulder pads and synthesizer music. America was going through a whole identity crisis. And let me tell you, the makeover, it was very conservative. But don't be fooled, this isn't some overnight transformation. That tea had been ruined since the 1960s. Let's rewind to 1964. Picture it. America is in full on chaos mode. Civil rights marches, anti war protests, hippies, free love, and the government tossing around Great Society money like it was confetti. And right in the middle of that storm, Barry Goldwater, the original conservative cowboy from Arizona. Goldwater ran for president, promising less government, more freedom, and a serious crackdown on communism. His slogan, "In your heart, you know he's right." Well, most Americans thought he was a little too right. He lost in a landslide to Lyndon B. Johnson. But that didn't mean his message disappeared. Oh no, his ideas, small government, traditional values, strong defense, they stuck, especially with voters in the South and West. Goldwater didn't win the White House, but baby, he set the vibe. Fast forward to the 70s. Conservatives had the vibes, but they needed the blueprints. So in 1973, they built their own little brain trust, the Heritage Foundation. Think of it like a conservative Hogwarts, full of policy wizards crafting spells like tax cuts and deregulation. They didn't just write opinion pieces, they produced full on policy manuals like the Mandate for Leadership, which Ronald Reagan practically kept in his back pocket. The Heritage Foundation gave the conservative movement something it hadn't had before: strategy. These folks didn't just talk the talk, they came with receipts. And just when things were heating up, boom, here comes the moral majority. By the late 70s, the culture was changing fast. Roe v. Wade legalized abortion. Schools banned mandatory prayer. Feminism, gay rights, disco. To a lot of evangelical Christians, it felt like the whole country was spiraling. Enter Jerry Falwell, a Baptist preacher with a plan. He formed the moral majority, rallied millions of conservative Christians, and turned churches into full-on political launch pads. These voters weren't just praying anymore. They were organizing, donating, voting. They made it crystal clear. If you wanted their support, you better talk faith, family, and flag. And Reagan? Oh, he knew exactly what to say. Alright, so let's talk about who was sitting at this big conservative comeback table. You had economic conservatives, tired of high taxes and government spending. Evangelicals who wanted morals back in public life. Cold War hawks who were over detente and wanted a president who'd stand up to the Soviets. White Southern voters, many of whom had shifted away from the Democratic Party after the Civil Rights era. And don't forget about the suburban middle class, worried about crime, school busing, inflation, and all the changes happening around them. They didn't agree on everything, but guess what? They all agreed on Reagan. Ronald Reagan was the perfect conservative poster boy. Former actor, governor of California, great communicator, and boy, did he deliver. He promised to cut taxes, shrink government, and stand tall against the Soviet Union. He made conservatism sound like common sense, wrapped in charm and star power. In 1980, Reagan crushed Jimmy Carter at the polls, and he didn't just win, he brought the whole conservative movement with him. It was like a grand entrance at a political prom. Red carpet, spotlight, applause, you get the picture. So, here's the final T. The Conservative Resurgence wasn't a sudden U-turn. It was a slow lane change, years in the making. Barry Goldwater planted the seeds. The Heritage Foundation built the map, and the moral majority brought the megaphone. And Reagan? He just was the one who drove the car across the finish line. So, if you want to find out what happens next in the 80s, subscribe and ring that bell so that you never miss another cup of tea. Stay tuned, y'all. The tea only gets hotter from here.